Welcome back to the world of Darkness Iceberg. How have you been? Sleep well? That's great, because you're going to take part in a drinking game. Whenever I say more on that in a later video, or some variation of the phrase, take a drink, your liver will explode. Now, this is part 2, so if you haven't, please watch the prior video first. On the surface of the iceberg, we will find the most popular World of Darkness topics. Fans of WoD will probably know all of these off by heart. Due to VTMB's notoriously buggy release, it is essential that players fix the game's bugs and glitches by using the Unoffical Patch mod. In recent years, the developers have also been adding custom gameplay options that expand the game, such as an experimental hunter campaign. The only downside to these updates is the fact that older overhaul mods that have become dormant no longer work on modern patches. Like most vampire fiction, VTM's vampires must feed upon blood. However, the reasons for why they do are far more nuanced than they would first appear, even to kindred. The word Vitae is an archaic term for blood, and the one used by vampires as a part of their masquerade. To most vampires, Vitae is simply blood, a thing that they cannot replenish on their own. But Vitae isn't simply blood. In fact, it is the essence of life itself, a source of immeasurable pleasure and power. This is why feasting upon the Vitae of someone gives a vampire a greater high than any human drug. Vitae itself is found within the blood of the living, not just vampires, although most kindred tend to prefer human blood, either from blood bags or from the source. You can think of it as a product of the soul, something supernatural that can linger in the blood of the living, like a passenger in a car. A vampire does not die if starved of blood, but will instead either go into a frenzy, lashing out at their surroundings until they devour some Vitae, or the vampire will fall into a state of physical inactivity known as torpor, although they may still be mentally active. But more on that later. Vampire disciplines are VTM's magic system. They are the powers you are given that separate you from humanity. That and your curse, of course. Each clan has certain disciplines that their bloodline has affinity towards, but any vampire can learn any discipline that they wish, just at a greater cost. Disciplines come in many shapes and sizes, with some even requiring a blood price. All disciplines come in multiple levels. Lower level discipline powers are weaker but are easier to learn. Higher level disciplines are often insanely powerful but are very costly to learn. There are many disciplines a vampire can learn, but the main ones are: Animalism allows a vampire to communicate with and control animals. Auspex is the power to see a person's true nature, as well as the powers of telepathy and a form of astral projection. However, this has nothing to do with the spirit world and remains entirely within the physical plane of existence. Celerity.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Chemistry is all about mental illusion and trickery, which at higher levels can become so great that you can even trick reality itself into thinking you are a human. Dementation grants one the power over sanity and insanity, broken and twisted by the warped mind of a psychic idiot. Dominate is the power of mental domination and mesmerization, the power to bend another to your suggestion and even overtake their will completely. Fortitude. Necromancy allows you to speak to the dead, create the undead, enslave the undead, Christian the undead, and defile and disrespect the sanctity of death itself. Obfuscate. Obtenebration. Potence.
Yeah, I do. I can lift your mom.
Presence is the mystical charm and allure that attracts femcells towards an obvious predator. Protein. Unleash your inner persona with claws and teeth. Get on all fours like the animal you know you are. You disgust me. Quietus shows us that the blood of a vampire is a potent weapon when refined by the ancient art of assassin blood sorcery. Or, in normal speak, you use your Vitae as the knife and the poison coating it. Serpentus. Unleash your inner scaly. With cold blood and scales, get on your belly like the lizard you know you are. You disgust me. Thaumaturgy.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I'm a what?
Vicissitude is all about the transmogrification of the body to the extreme, including turning others into chairs as walking pieces of art. Most of these are self-explanatory, but some will be elaborated on due to their complex natures, or if they have interesting facts about them, such as vicissitude being a complete copyright infringement. In Vampire the Masquerade, vampires are divided into 13 distinct clans, except for the ones that aren't, but that's for later. All 13 clans are descended from their respective antediluvians, complete with their own unique histories and curses. They are Clan Assamite. Never call them Banu Hakim. That's their Middle Eastern name. You're from Christendom. You will call it Constantinople. They are the Master Assassins, bound by an ancient creed. They are killers for hire who collect blood from their quarry. They do this to perform rituals that bring them closer to their progenitor. Clan Assamite like to embrace those who hail from the Middle East, especially those who are trained killers, like assassins, soldiers, or mercenaries. Clan Bruja, or Bruja. In times of yore, the Bruja ruled ancient civilizations as philosopher kings. They were also time travelers, but the march of time has been merciless to these monarchs, humiliating and dethroning them. The Bruja have fallen from grace. They have allowed themselves to become moronic rebels and sadistic ideologues. The once constructive and thought-provoking clan has devolved itself into being a force of destruction and rebellion, never finding satisfaction or peace, because deep down they will never accept either the peace of victory or the satisfaction of a job well done, even if it means sabotaging their own plans just to keep on fighting. They are their own worst enemies, always thinking of new ways to improve the Canaanite condition, but when it comes to live up to their own standards, they always falter without fail. Clan Bruja don't have any particular requirements for their chowder, except for the embrace to be of a lesser intellect. This is reflected by the fact that they are often chosen based solely on their political beliefs. It is no wonder then that most sires leave their child to fight for themselves. Clan Gangrel. Vampire furries, abominations notwithstanding. Okay, fine. Clan Gangrel are the nativist faction. They call all uncivilized land their home, living as nomads wherever they can. With them, they bring stories and news from foreign places, ideas and philosophies both esoteric and beyond the scope of vampirism. They are more in tune with their beast than the other clans, going so far as to have two animal-related disciplines: animalism, which allows them to control the animal kingdom, and protean, which allows them to become a true furry. This does not mean that they are of any lesser intellect than their more civilized kin, with one of the most studious kindred in existence hailing from Clan Gangrel. Cuthbert Beckett, like all Gangrel, has the nature of a storyteller, but he has chosen to focus his own life story on the history of the vampires. Right now, Beckett is the greatest historian and canine anthropologist in the world of darkness. The Gangrel's list of requirements are minimal. Be brave, maybe stupid, and you'll fit right in. It's not unheard of for them to just embrace someone who was brave enough, or stupid enough, to walk out at night. Although some do favour those brave souls who also happen to be drifters and storytellers already. Clan Giovanni. Do not get me started on Clan Hecata. I will talk about them later, because they will be getting their own section. But for now, we shall talk about Clan Giovanni. Before the Giovanni were vampires, they were already a family of necromancers. A smart family at that, because unlike the other supernatural beings who use their powers for stupid things like territory, magical research, and plain idiocy, the Giovanni used their necromancy for money. Lots and lots of money. They had capital. So much so that a goddamn antediluvian wanted to take it all for his clan. And so he hatched a plan: embrace the Giovanni as his childer and inherit the money. By the fact the clan is called Clan Giovanni and not Clan Cappadocius, you know something went very, very wrong. At least for the antediluvian. After the necromancers were convinced to join, their close mafioso-like family ties meant that they quickly took over the power structure of the clan, diablerizing most of the other clan members for more power. This culminated in Cappadocius himself being diablerized by Augustus Giovanni, the very Giovanni he first embraced. Except that's a bit of a lie, because what really happened was a lot more complicated, and is a story for later. Before the vampiric world had even realized, Clan Cappadocius had become a family business. But unlike when the Tremere diabolized Salubri, no one cared, because Clan Giovanni had one thing the Tremere didn't: money. Better yet, the political knowledge of knowing where to spend that money to keep the right people happy and the wrong people dead. In the modern Knights, the clan is still an incestuous family business. Absolute loyalty, purity of blood, and using necromancy to keep the wheels turning are all core tenets of being a Giovanni vampire. That, and being the most organized clan out of them all. It's the only clan that can claim to have a somewhat accurate census of how many vampires are in their clan at a given time. Oh, I should also mention that they're arguably the most hunted clan out of them all, and their hunters are not limited to kindred. Turns out, being Cosa Nostra before that concept even existed comes with a lot of baggage, especially when you're first made to step into vampiredom, was to split a clan in twain. The Giovanni almost embrace embrace outside of the family, even their branch families. From this limited pool, they look for the best aspirants and ghoul them. Then, after years of being a ghoul, they may be embraced, similar to a mafia gang gaining a new member after proving his loyalty to the family. Clan La Sombra are a Darwinistic, shadow-worshipping clan who rule the Sabbat as nobles and bishops. They wholly believe in the idea that might makes right, and if you die, it's your own fault. They despise Clan Ventru, who they see as usurpers of their authority. But that is not all. Clan La Sombra vampires are innately drawn to the supernatural, meaning they have a much greater knowledge of the wider world of darkness than any other vampire clan, save Clan Gangrel. This includes their own power over shadows, which is hinted to originate from the Abyss. If this is true, that's terrifying, because this means that their clan's power comes from a connection to demons, or worse, the Abyss itself. This is really, really bad. So bad that this theory is getting its own section just so I can explain to you how bad this is. Clan La Sombra is in a very unique position in the world of darkness. The best way I could describe what they are is the term anti-hero. This comes from the fact that they really take on the ideas of the Sabbat, meaning that despite their monstrous nature, they believe heavily in the ideals of justice, honor, and retribution, even if it is through the lens of might makes right. The La Sombra like to embrace people who have proven themselves. They seek out people who have gone through the worst betrayals and lowest lows, and yet despite the whole world seeming to be against them, they proved their tenacity and fought back, becoming stronger from the experiences, rather than weaker or dead. Bear in mind, if a La Sombra wants to embrace someone, they won't wait for these events to naturally happen. They will be the architects of their own potential childish misfortune. Clan Malkavian, oracles and madmen hand in hand, dancing around the fact that they know everything and will tell you nothing, just because it's funny. Or maybe they'll tell you everything, but in such a way that no one will ever understand. Not even the Malkavian who told you. Malkavians are a very fun clan. Annoying, but fun. They're arguably one of the most difficult clans to play for new players, because the storyteller has to figure out how to deal with the Madness Network, aka your prescience, or even if it is prescience, and not just the madness that everyone thinks it is. Because guess what? You may have the power of foresight, but you also explain it in the most incomprehensible ways, because the way you learn about the future is itself incomprehensible. They're innately meant to be pranksters and jokesters, as well as oracles. In fact, one of their most important historical events is literally called the Great Prank, where a bunch of Malkavians came together at this place in Bohemia in order to change the Camarilla-aligned Malkavians' signature discipline, Dementation, into Dominate. Why? 'Cause funny. No, I'm serious. One of the biggest historical events for the Malkavians, and arguably one of the most impactful for the Camarilla, was done as a joke. A joke. You know what's worse? No one knows how they did it, because your innate disciplines are meant to be tied to the curse of your clan. Your bloodline is meant to directly correlate to what disciplines you have an affinity towards. Changing them should not be possible. And yet they did it! Not just some random discipline either, but their signature one. I will note that players do get to choose between either Dominate and Imitation at character creation. As I said, the Great Prank was only done to Camarilla Alliance Markavians, and allegiances change over time, especially those of Chalder. That, and the Markavians won't stop embracing, despite the fact that everyone wants them to stop. Speaking of embracing, Markavians tend to embrace the two ends of the knowledge spectrum, the intellectual, or the spiritually sensitive. Although the more likely occurrence is whoever they feel like at that exact moment, much to the chagrin of everyone involved. Followers of Set are a clan of corrupters and subverters. While some clans revel in their beast, letting it shape their flesh, and others live like beasts and let it shape their minds, the followers of Set believe in corruption itself as a tool of control. They are followers of an evil cult that evangelizes deplorable examples of a chthonic god. The followers of Set believe their antediluvian was the Egyptian god Set, which is true. The worship of their god is the most important factor of their clan, which means that the Setites are one of the few clans that allow non-vampiric elements within its ranks. Their cult is an important part of their clan's identity, the main draw being liberation, or rather, liberation without end. This is why they seek to subvert everything, especially for their own ends. They see it as a form of divinity. This is because the god their own antediluvian worships is Apep, an aspect of the worm.
Hey, you think Goslin from Darkwing Duck is really Huey in drag?
Their main contribution to the world of Darkness society is a massive drug trade, and, more importantly, the treasures they unearth. You may be asking, why are they drug lord treasure hunters? And my answer is simple. They like secrets. Being a part of both a secret cult and a massive drug cartel means that the followers know a lot about what's going on currently in both the normal world and the world of darkness. This also means that they make it their business to know things that others could only dream of knowing, or would never want anyone else to know. There is no greater secret than those of the dirty variety, and having such knowledge provides ample leverage when the right people come looking to bargain with them. The Setites embrace the manipulative, the cultist, and even the victims of their own corruption. Clan Nosferatu know a lot more than you do, and a lot more than you think they do. They are defined, put down, and built up all by their curse, being unbelievably ugly to the point that their very existence is a masquerade breach in mortal society. This means that the Nosferatu have to live almost exclusively in the shadows, a secret society within the secret society of vampires. They abide in the sewers, the forgotten warrens, and anywhere underground and out of the public eye. While another clan might have wallowed and cried themselves out of the world, Clan Nosferatu took a different approach. They understood that if you want to survive in kindred society, you make yourself not just useful, but indispensable and invaluable. Clan Nosferatu knows what you're going to do even before you do. They are the secret service and information brokers of vampire society, usually for the Camarilla. Their spy network is so vast that even thinking of destroying one of their bases of operation would be a death sentence, because you've just declared war on the kindred who have the means to gather a bunch of allies against you, and know your every move, your every strength, and your every weakness. And now, they have no reason to hold any of those things back from your enemies. Despite their curse, or rather because of it, Clan Nosferatu have become a clan of adapters and survivors, to the point that they were the first clan to adopt the internet and understand just how powerful of a tool it is. But I should warn you, Clan Nosferatu aren't expert hiders just because they're ugly and they don't want to be seen. They're expert hiders because they're being hunted by their sibling clan, Clan Niktuku. While the other clans don't believe the Niktuku exist, or can't be bothered to look at the differences because they're both ugly, Niktuku desire the absolute eradication of the Nosferatu. This is because the Nosferatu antediluvian, Asmiliad, hates ugliness and wants to purge all of his ugly chowder in the vain hope that he can restore his own beauty. This also has to do with the Baba Yaga, but that's a story for another time. Nosferatu embraces one of three types of people: people useful to them for their skills of acquiring secrets, people who are already ugly, and people who would have a cathartic downfall by becoming ugly. These last ones are known as Cleopatras, a term used to describe someone who was vaingloriously beautiful, but was embraced by a Nosferatu as ironic retribution. Clan Ravnos believe themselves to be the warriors of the East. However, in the modern Knights, things haven't been going so well for them. Today, most Ravnos are easily mistaken for the stereotypical gypsy, or in the kindred world as Kaitif. Long ago, the Ravnos were the masters of India. Then everything changed when the Kuei Jin attacked. These eastern vampires, who are not Cainites, attacked from East Asia into West Asia, forcing Clan Ravnos into a millennia-long tug-of-war. The Ravnos also think very highly of themselves and their cause, as they literally see themselves as devil slayers. This is due to the creatures the Kuei Jin use. To be fair to their unwarranted egos, the Kuei Jin are terrifying, and the monsters that they use are even more so. The fact the Ravnos were able to not only fight back against the Kuei Jin, but for a millennia, does go to show you that the Ravnos aren't all smoke and mirrors. They do have some teeth to them. While most of the Ravnos were in India, they can now be found everywhere else aside from Asia. They mostly live nomadic lives, going from place to place, playing the roles of the tricksters and thieves, as they are cursed, literally, by their worst inhibitions. As you can tell, this clan is quite controversial, especially with the modern political landscape. However, the Ravnos aren't real, and you don't have to play them as gypsies. You can play them as whoever you want, as long as you lean into their daredevil lifestyles. In fact, rather than gypsies, a better word comparison would probably be the Fae, considering their signature discipline, chemistry. Chemistry is all about trickery. This gives them parallels to the Fae, so you too can play pretend and get what you want out of people. The people Clan Ravnos like to embrace are the same people they are: outcasts, tricksters, daredevils, and wanderers. Oftentimes certain ethnic groups tied to their mortal lives. Clan Toreador are the artists, the beautiful, the innovators of vampire society. They see life as an ongoing piece of art, and it is their destiny to sculpt the way. Their egomania isn't entirely unwarranted, as the Toreador were instrumental in the formation of both the Camarilla and the Sabbat. Without Clan Toreador, the clans who make up each sect would have never come together, at least not the way that they did. Clan Toreador values the beauty of things above all else, to the point that it is their weakness. A Toreador will be enraptured by something beautiful they see, and forget the rest of the world around them. Yes, this has led some Toreadors to be burnt by the sun. Its beauty was just too captivating. Despite their desire for art and beauty, eternal life has its consequences. Fashion trends come and go, vogue art one week goes stale in the next, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And the beholder becomes quickly tired of the things that lack novelty. This clan embraces those people who remind them of their own mortal passions they gave up when they became vampires, either not realizing they've just doomed another to repeat that same cycle, or knowing exactly that. Their Toreador, pettiness runs in their Vitae. A Toreador will always be incredibly manipulative to their child, becoming harder and harder to please over time as the novelty of having a child wears off. What was pleasing last month is now seen as tired and expected, and the child doesn't even get any feedback to understand what they're doing wrong, because they're not doing anything wrong. And then one day, the sire casts away the child, either literally banishing them to somewhere else, or replacing them with another child, completely forgetting about their old one because they found a new novelty. Because novelty is all that matters. Despite what you might think about their foppishness, the Toreador's obsessions with art and knowledge has made them savvy politicians and surprisingly good commanders and soldiers, just not good mentors or friends. I'm not joking about the politicians and commanders, by the way. Going to war with a faction of Toreador is quite the headache. Just ask Mithras about the Scottish Toreadors. Oh wait, he's dead. Sadly, the Toreadors didn't kill him. Well, not directly. Clan Tremere, like the Giovanni, are usurpers, but unlike Clan Giovanni, they didn't need to bribe anyone, because apart from Clan Domitzi, no one cared. This is because of the bizarre origins of Clan Tremere. They were originally seen as a branch of the Domitzi, and were later seen as a collection of Kaitif. More on the Kaitif later in this video. This was because this clan had no antediluvian as their clan's progenitor. That was until Tremere, the clan founder, diablerized Saulot. This was a mistake, as everyone really liked Saulot. However, there is one important thing to note about Clan Tremere. They were all mages once, like Clan Giovanni, except instead of focusing on something frivolous like money, they researched magic. And recall what I said about mages before? To be a mage is to be a gaslighter. Despite the vampiric world being entirely against them, Clan Tremere were able to turn the tables on Clan Salubri, making them into the outcasts of vampire society. Probably because the curse of Clan Salubri is to have a third eye, and that's weird. Okay, the real reason, the eye thing is true by the way, is that Clan Salubri knew things, and they weren't sharing. But unlike the Nosferatu, they didn't make themselves and their secrets indispensable. As you could guess by the fact they were once mages, Clan Tremere specialise in assholery, aka magic. Or rather, the discipline thaumaturgy. which is not magic in the word sense, but for all intents and purposes, it's vampire blood magic. Thaumaturgy isn't a set type of magic either. Instead, it's more accurate to say that it's various disciplines that require study and aren't learned innately. Although the Tremere do have an affinity towards thaumaturgy as a whole, except for the blood magics they don't have, such as Coldonism that the Tzimisce have. Because the rules for disciplines are based on mythology and legendary concepts, such as magical feelings and nonsense. Wait, I just figured out how the Camarilla Markavians changed their signature discipline. Safe to say, the Tremere have made it their mission to create a monopoly on the thaumaturgical practices. This monopolization of vampire magic has made them both formidable allies to the Camarilla and terrifying enemies to everyone else. Due to their origins within the houses of Hermes, more on that in a later video, the clan is extremely rigid and hierarchical, even for a clan within the Camarilla. This is easily shown by how their clan is structured and their clan curse. Clan Tremere is a pyramid scheme held together by blood bonding. Or at least it was until 5e blew it up. Literally. More on this awful writing, identity destroying, unique selling point to play this clan massacring mistake later. Clan Tremere likes to embrace people who are into occultism, show loyalty to their superiors, or show signs that they are destined to awaken and become mages. But rarely do they embrace mages themselves, mainly because they know exactly how dangerous a mage can be. While loyalty is appreciated in a child, the blood bond makes it more of a formality than a requirement. I'll talk more about blood bonding later. Clan Tzimisce. While the world of darkness embraces its horror roots, the Tzimisce decided to take that as a challenge, and they played to win. There's some context required to understand the Tzimisce. The first is that they're a walking copyright violation of the Vampiri from Necroscope, a book you've never read. The reason for this violation can be seen by the fact that Clan Tzimisce are fleshcrafters who fully embrace being monsters. Humanity to them is but one large canvas for their artistry. No, they do not care that they were once human themselves, and are more alien than other vampires. This fleshcrafting is their signature discipline called vicissitude. It's heavily implied that vicissitude is why we have cancer. More on that later. The second thing to know is that these vampires are the reason why you think of that Transylvanian accent, large gothic castles, and polite masks hiding sinister faces. Not only because most of them live in Eastern Europe, but because Dracula is their most infamous member. A member who literally conned himself into vampirism. But that's a story for another time. The third thing to know is that while they are evil incarnate, they understand the problems that occur when you just be evil and attack everything all the time. This is why they play a little game of decorum. The Tzimisce are rather great hosts, feeding their guests, giving them comfy beds, and letting them go on their way. Of course, the price for all these comforts are the possibly screaming furniture, because it's all alive, even down to the chairs, lampposts, and footstools. This mockery of decorum is what Clan Tzimisce refer to as guests' rights. It's a way for these monsters to be civilized, at least among others of their clan, and potentially kindred of other clans, although you'd have to have a very good reason to want to go to a Tzimisce flesh palace. While Clan Tremere almost has a monopoly on thaumaturgy, Clan Tzimisce have held onto their own arts for a very long time. Of course, They don't call it thaumaturgy, but codonic sorcery, which, in layman's terms, is elemental sorcery, meaning yes, these flesh-crafting eldritch monsters are also the Avatar, an Avatar who can shoot laser beams out of their eyes, lasers so hot it can make people spontaneously combust. Clan Zemetsi's curse is why they end up building palaces of flesh in the first place. Aside from them embracing their evilness, they are required to sleep near 2 handfuls of dirt from a place important to them as mortals, usually their birthplace or death place. The irony of this is either completely lost on them, or it's so engrossing to them it angers them perpetually. Clan Zemetsi's embracing preferences can be seen as a corruptive version of Clan Toreador's. They look for freaks who are already twisted by life's cruelties, finding their child's missapenness and freakishness beautiful in their cruel ways. That, or because they feel like it. They are very given to embracing on whims. To be fair to them, so are most other clans. Clan Ventrue, who are better than you, or at least they think they are. While the La Sombra play at being the rulers of the vampires, Clan Ventrue are the rulers of the vampires, the merchants with all the right connections, the kings with the mountains on his shoulders, the nobles who serve and are served, and the knights who uphold the laws of the land. Where power resides, a Ventrue is almost always at the top, either in the limelight or creeping in the shadows. Even the Anarchs aren't free from this, as many of their barons are Ventrue, despite the Brujah's grievances and best efforts. They are undoubtedly despots and tyrants, but not without just cause. To survive at the top in the world of darkness, you must be ruthless. They can't let anyone question their authority, sense any weaknesses, or give out a shred of mercy without ample reason. They are surrounded by beasts that want to devour them for their power and prestige, none more so than the other Ventrue. Despite their arrogance, Clan Ventrue does have a point. Societies need leaders, better yet, someone who can actually keep everyone else from killing each other, if only through the power of fear. Their curse is as arrogant as they are. A Ventrue cannot feed on any blood they wish. Only the finest caviar may quench their thirst. Every Ventrue has a niche, a specific requirement that needs to be fulfilled by their victim. For some Ventrue, they can only drink from women, others only children. But some are very unlucky, having to figure out that they can only drink from 12-year-old black girls with one eye, a peg leg, and who have an Australian accent, even though they're from France. If this niche can no longer be fulfilled, such as the last person alive that did fulfill it ended up dead, their curse will default to a new type of niche blood. Some Ventrue go into a frenzy because they cannot find anyone who fits their super specific diet. Although they are lucky when this happens, because when a Ventrue frenzies, their curse is no longer as strict, allowing for some leeway. But this does not mean a Ventrue can simply drink from whoever they want. There are still some limitations in place. Clan Ventrue almost always targets those in power already, from CEOs to kings to bankers to anyone of either political or financial influence. The more adapted someone is to the harsh climate of power, the more likely they are to be embraced by a Ventrue. Caitiff are not a traditional vampire clan. In fact, it's wrong to call them a clan or a sect at all, as the word Caitiff itself means clanless. The first thing to understand about vampirism is that it is innately a magical thing, and therefore it does not always follow the scientific method, although it does have rules. Following this idea, you can imagine how a non-scientific thing can be influenced by people's perceptions and superstitions, sometimes by abstract ideas, as well as the potency of the science vitae. Sometimes, when a child is embraced, and that child does not know their sire or their sire's heritage, there is a chance that neither the boons nor curses of their sire's clan will develop. Another way for a caitiff to be is for their sire's vitae to be so thin that they don't pass on any traits from their clan to their child. They are vampires in the sense that they are descendants of Cain, but they have no signature disciplines. This is a half-truth, but more on that later. No clan curse, and are given no respect. This is because bloodlines are very important to vampire culture, so to be clanless or caitiff is to be marked as an outsider at best, a target to eliminate at worst. For the caitiff, the only refuge they can find in vampire society is with the anarchs, but even then, due to their lack of uniqueness and youth, they don't often bring much to the table. Those few caitiff who are lucky to survive and find other caitiff may live long enough to figure out what all this unlife is about. Some may even be lucky enough to develop their signature discipline, kineticism, because even though they don't have a clan, that doesn't mean they can't develop clan-like abilities, because technically they are a sort of bloodline, if one detached from the others. Remember, vampire bloodlines are innately magical. This is why the curses of Clan Giovanni and Clan Tremere are not the same as Clan Cappadocius and Clan Salubri. The world of darkness itself, or at least the beings within, have acknowledged these new clans as their own bloodlines. The same is true for the caitiff, despite their diverging ancestry. Caitiffs themselves can be anyone with a sire from any clan, with the caitiff themselves also able to sire new chalder. But there are patterns to the kindred. They are usually children to teenagers, meaning they were too young to understand what they were, and their bodies too weak to handle the changes. Or they are a higher generation of vampire, meaning the vitae given to them was already extremely thin, and so the full weight of the curse and boons of the sire were unable to manifest. Oh, I should also mention, the caitiff are also a sign of the end times for the vampires. So that's another reason no kindred likes them, even those that don't believe in the prophecies. Dracula by Bram Stoker. If you are a fan of the world of darkness, you will read this book. While I personally don't think it's amazing, it still stands as the main foundation for a lot of the world of darkness, especially VTM. Clan Tzimisce, Clan Gangrel, how vampires work as monsters, the fact there is a secret world below the one we know, as well as the idea that science cannot explain them, all come or have inspirations from this book. Of all the recommendations on this list, this book is the one you must read if you were to consume any at all. The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice is a book that serves as the inspiration for Clan Toreador and Clan Ventru. Necroscope by Brian Lumley, Tzimisce. I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, which is actually a vampire story, despite what the movies may have made you believe. The Hunger by Whitley Strieber, mythologization of vampires and their impact to the curiosities of science. American Vampire by Scott Snyder, neo-vampire western in the New World. Blade by Marvel, inspiration for vampire hunters and modern vampire slaying fiction. Vampire Hunter D by Hideyuki Kikuchi, post-apocalyptic gothic horror that experimented with a wide breadth of horror fantasy and science fiction. a chief inspiration for a lot of Eastern horror and action media, for better or worse. Twilight and All Life and Death by Stephanie Meyer. Great inspiration for your table, because you'll want to make a better vampire story with your friends. Nosferatu. You know what this was the inspiration for. Bela Lugosi's Dracula films. Bela Lugosi is canonically a fish milk, and I do mean the actual actor himself. Shiki. Classic vampire invasion set in a rural Japanese town. From dusk till dawn. Neo-Western that inspired tropes in later vampire fiction. The Addiction. Modern American vampire horror film which reignited a lot of the tropes in the goth subculture. Vampire in Brooklyn. Eddie Murphy as a vampire. Easily the best film here. Funniest at the very least. Near Dark. The inspiration for the Anarchs. The Lost Boys. The inspiration for the Sabbat and also the Anarchs. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Inspiration for Hunters and the Greater World of Darkness. Chronos by Guillermo del Toro. A unique take on vampirism and vampire lore. Blood franchise. Cool weeaboo vampire girl slaying demons. Underworld franchise. A lawsuit that was settled out of court. Fright Night. More evil vampires and the extent of their influence. Sinners. American vampires killing black people. Hunter the Parenting. A web show that is currently airing on YouTube. While following Hunters, the World of Darkness as a whole is featured. This and Dracula are the two most recommended things for new players of What to Watch. Do be warned though, HTP uses 5e for its world, not 20th. Yes, this has reduced its quality noticeably at points, but overall, it's a good show. Vampire the Masquerade Redemption, the first VTM game. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, the best VTM game, after being patched with mods of course. Blood Rain. Marvel's Blade, but with TNA. Legacy of Kain series. No relation. A pioneer in storytelling for video games. Watch the cutscenes of the games online if you can. Someone uploaded a compilation of them all onto YouTube a while back. Castlevania franchise. The first good vampire slaying games. Infamous 2, Festival of Blood. Nice one-shot about killing Cajun vampires. Vampire. A decent vampire game. Kill the gay people, and you make everyone's lives objectively better. That'll be all for this video. I hope you learned something new about the major vampire clans. And yes, that does mean there are minor ones, and that they will be covered in another video. Speaking of, how's your liver? Has it exploded yet? I hope not, because I wish to see you in part 3. Have a nice night, and I wish you all the best.